Hello and welcome back to the unit tutorial for History Year 4, Unit 1, the Romans, and this is video part 2 of 2. This video will walk you through the following areas: how to adapt to activities and lessons, how to plan for the inquiry question, and key moments in the unit to look out for. A great resource to use to adapt pupil activities in this unit is the online ebook workbook. This is a demonstration of how to use the ebook to adapt activities, and here I'll be using a Year 3 science workbook, but this video applies to all year groups and subjects. To access the ebook work for this unit, log into Oxford OWL, select the year group and subject you want, in this case Science Year 3, for your case History Year 4, and the first resource is the ebook. This is an online exact copy of the pupil workbook. Use the arrows to scroll through the pages, and you can find all the units for Year 3, or in your case History Year 4, within this ebook. Select the activity you want to adapt by using the snipping tool and highlighting that section. You may be familiar with the snipping tool, but it can be found by searching in the search bar, or simultaneously pressing Windows, Shift and S. Drag your mouse to highlight the area you want to copy, and that section of your screen will be copied onto your clipboard. And now you can press Paste, and that section will be pasted onto the document you want. Sometimes you may find that Word works best, and sometimes perhaps Publisher. I like to use Word for the draw tool if I want to highlight anything or write in handwriting, and Publisher is quite good for moving around text boxes and shapes. Now you can adapt the activity in any way you want. Here you can see I'm actually adding an extra label, but adapt the activity to the needs of your class. Then you can print this out and stick it on top of the activity in the pupil workbook. Every lesson starts with a knowledge quiz except for lesson 1, and they can be implemented in a variety of ways which entirely depend on what works best for your class. They are an important step to check for understanding and address any misconceptions, so try not to miss them out. We have found from teacher feedback that most teachers teach these quizzes with pupils sat at desks independently answering the questions. This is great if this works for your pupils, and keep doing it if so. But there are other options if you feel this isn't the best method for your class. You could read through the questions and options as a whole class and go through each question and answer one by one, breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. You may wish to start the year with pupils answering the questions as a class by showing a number on their hands, for example 1, 2, 3 and 4. To keep track of answers this way, you keep a record of the general consensus the class has come to, or even make a note in the workbook you've kept aside as a teacher copy. As the year progresses, you may wish to make these knowledge quizzes more independent. The aim of the knowledge quiz is to assess the new learning from the previous lesson, and you can adapt this to any method which best suits your class. This is the first workbook for activity lesson 1. I'm going to run through some of the activities in the workbook from lessons 1 to 6 and give suggestions on how you may adapt. You don't have to use my examples or even adapt the tool, but these are suggestions for ways in which you could. This activity has 3 parts. Pupils are first asked to shade in Roman rule in 58 BCE onto the map. Next, pupils label the map using the countries from the table below, and finally complete the table to show which modern countries were ruled or partly ruled by the Roman Empire. To support with this activity, you could use the answer map on the slides to stick over the blank map in the workbooks. This map shows the countries labelled and the Roman Empire shaded in. Pupils can then answer the table with an extended amount of time. You could give examples of 2 countries to further support, and go a step further, you could colour code your example answers to demonstrate to pupils. The purple shows the yes countries, countries ruled by the Romans, and the orange shows the no countries, countries not ruled by the Romans. To stretch children, you could create a challenge activity where pupils answer the question, what does the red dot tell us? Can you label it on your map? Here, the red dot shows Rome, the centre of the Roman Empire. For this lesson, pupils need to read the information to list 4 reasons why the Romans were wrong in thinking the Britons were barbaric and uncivilized. You may wish to spend some time defining these words to support pupils before they complete this task. You may wish to add these definitions to the corresponding slide to be referred to. To support pupils, you could highlight the key areas of text for pupils to turn to sentences and list below. To stretch pupils, you could set them a challenge activity such as, why do your facts tell us the Britons weren't barbaric or uncivilized? To support with this activity, you could work as a class to unpick the text and list some strengths, opening up a discussion or partner talk about why those strengths often allow them to win in battle. Then you could remove the support for pupils to complete the task independently, and you could highlight some key sections to support with this reading. As a challenge activity, pupils could write what they think was bad about being part of the Roman army and why. For example, they had to serve 25 years and couldn't get married during this time. For this lesson, pupils need to use what they've read to complete the map of Boudicca and the Romans' movements. An option to support pupils could be to simply highlight the key areas of text. For further support, you could print labels for pupils to sort, then stick. You could also pre-stick the names of the Romans and Boudica into the workbooks to further support pupil understanding of the text and map. As a challenge, you could ask pupils, why do you think Boudica didn't want to be captured by the Romans? Examples could include that she'd rather be dead than in prison because they would kill her anyway or they may hurt her, etc. For Lesson 5, pupils' confidence in understanding the text is the best support for completing an activity where they need to use this information to label an image of a Roman fort. You may find this to be the case with other activities also, where your support comes in the read section, not always the actual activity section. We've used highlighting as a support tool in most of the examples so far, and we can use it again here. It's a quick and successful way to adapt a lesson. This time, highlighting and color coding could be a great support, so pupils know what area of the diagram the text is describing. Pupils could then use this highlighted text to support their labeling activity. You could go a step further and color code highlight the keywords, or even create labels to be sorted and stuck in. You could stretch pupils by asking, do you think Roman soldiers had everything they needed in their forts and why? To get them really thinking about what the soldiers had available to them and what the life of a soldier may have lacked. Pupils may suggest they had nowhere for fun, games rooms and sports fields, etc. For this activity, you may feel the text is too dense for pupils with lower reading attainment to be able to fully access and use to complete the table. You could use highlighting the text as support or take a step further. We have provided an additional resource for this task with an enlarged table, which you can see here on the right, and labels for each event. Pupils could work in groups to complete the table before using it as a support to fill in the table in their workbooks. To further support individual pupils, you could have the table partially completed to allow them more time to complete the unanswered sections. You could even add S for strengthened and W for weakened so pupils can circle instead of write. This gives more time to think about their answers instead of focusing on the spelling and letter formation of those trickier words. To challenge pupils, you could ask, which event do you think weakened the empire the most? To really get them thinking about and unpicking the different events and the impact they had on the empire. To recap, this is the inquiry question for the unit. Lesson 6 is only an hour to provide time within the lesson for pupils to complete the activity. How pupils complete this end of unit assessment is decided by your school, year group or teacher. So now is a great time to think ahead to plan for what this will look like. To support teachers implementing the inquiry question, we have created an inquiry question support document, and here you can find the information you will need and an additional activity for pupils to complete. This could support them as a planning activity, be a recap of the entire unit knowledge to refresh memories before the assessment, or be edited into the actual assessment itself. The inquiry question support document for this unit can be found with the other resources on Oxford OWL. Your inquiry question could be answered in many different ways. It could be answered as an extended write, a poster, a presentation, a question paper, or a multiple choice quiz, or whatever best suits your class. For every unit, there are elements that will need to be planned in advance by the class teacher. You'll need to plan an engaging hook. You could try reading some Roman myths, show a video, or do something more creative. You'll need to print off any additional resources per lesson. Not every lesson has an additional resource, so you'll need to check before you teach. And gather resources for specific lessons. In Lesson 2, you'll need to identify in advance the key people who are located near your local area. This lesson also gives the option for a hot seating activity. And for more detail, check through the unit planning guidance. Lesson 4 gives optional homework or pupil project based on Boudica. And Lesson 5, there is a suggestion to use laptops. In Lesson 6, there is an optional activity based on a poem that could be set as pupil homework or completed in class. Here's a list of possible trips and recommended reading for this unit, and you can pause the video and read through it now. Hopefully you now feel confident about accessing and teaching this unit. Any questions, please send to primarymastery@curriculumplus.org.uk, and we welcome all feedback to ensure that these resources are as supportive as possible for you and your pupils.